Welcome to tonight's Live Fully, Live Well webinar, Fatigue-Related Challenges. My name is Melanie McKinney, Programs Coordinator at Can Do Multiple Sclerosis. Managing your health and wellness is an integral part of living well with MS. Live Fully, Live Well is a comprehensive program from Can Do MS and the National Multiple Sclerosis Society, and it's designed for people with MS and their support partners. Live Fully, Live Well covers topics affecting the whole family living with MS in order to strengthen relationships, increase understanding, and promote improved health and quality of life for the person with MS and their support partner. This program helps people living with MS and their support partners move from education to action. There are 2 webinars this fall covering the topics of fatigue and mobility. On our website, www.mscando.org, you can find 7 web-based videos and webinars with additional wellness topics from 2001. Tonight's webinar on fatigue is a follow-up and update to one of those topics. The areas of the Live Fully, Live Well program can be integrated together or enjoyed separately to provide you with the resources, knowledge, and tools to create a personalized wellness plan. And this program is made possible by MS ActiveSource, which is sponsored by Biogen, IDEC, and Elan Pharmaceuticals Incorporated. And again, Live Fully, Live Well is a collaborative program between Can Do MS and the National MS Society. The vision of the National MS Society is a world free of MS. The Society helps people affected by MS by funding cutting-edge research, driving change through advocacy, facilitating professional education, and providing programs and services that help people with MS and their families move their lives forward. Can Do MS is an innovative provider of lifestyle empowerment programs for people with MS and their support partners. We are the start of a whole new way of thinking about and living with MS. Can Do MS empowers people to move beyond their MS by giving them the knowledge, skills, tools, and confidence to adopt healthy lifestyle behaviors, actively co-manage their disease, and live their best lives. And just a few housekeeping items before we get started this evening. Juliann will address questions at the end of the presentation, and we encourage questions and comments throughout the presentation. We will answer as many questions as time allows. To ask a question, type it in the chat feature, which is located on the left side of your computer screen. To submit a question, type in the small box that says chat. And this presentation is being recorded, and it will be archived on Can Do MS's website. You can view this presentation again or check out the other Live Fully, Live Well archived webinars. And for those of you that are attending live with us this evening, you will receive an email tomorrow with copies of the PowerPoint presentation. And we have a wonderful speaker lined up with us this evening. Juliann Hanson-Zlatev has been an occupational therapist for 18 years. Over the past 15 years, she has specialized in neurological and neurodegenerative diagnoses with an emphasis on stroke recovery, MS, Parkinson's disease symptom management, and Huntington's disease. Her special interest is restoring quality of movement while maximizing independence and wellness in daily activities. And this has led her to study myofascial release as a unique and holistic treatment option for many individuals. Juliann has worked with the Rocky Mountain MS Center for many years as a consultant for the Rehabilitation Clinic and for Can Do MS for over 5 years. Juliann currently owns a private practice in Castle Rock, Colorado, and she enjoys working with individuals to achieve movement and balance in their daily lives. So before we get started with our presentation tonight, as always, we do a quick survey just to see who's on the call with us this evening. And I put up a survey on the screen. If you can just take a second and let us know if you're a support partner, person with MS. Great. Thank you, everyone, for taking part in that. And what I'll do now is I will turn this over to Juliann.
Thank you very much, Melanie. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for the next hour or so to discuss fatigue. And in my practice, I have a lot of people that have had issues with fatigue, and it's just really a common topic, something that people really need to discuss and need to manage in their daily lives. And it's really nice that as research progresses and as we begin to understand the process of MS in our bodies a little more, we gain a better understanding of how to manage fatigue and how to make changes that are positive in our lives. And tonight, I'm going to present more of a holistic look of the mind and body way to combat fatigue, and there'll also be some pretty specific suggestions in there. But overall, it's more of a holistic global look at how to manage fatigue. So there are obviously different varieties of fatigue. There's normal fatigue when we overdo something or do something new that we haven't done before. Then we usually recover from that fairly quickly. A good night's rest or sitting down and taking a rest break, usually we pop right back. There's fatigue from deconditioning, where we haven't done something before, like you first take up running or you first take up some exercise, or you haven't exercised in a while and you start to do some things. Why then we can have some fatigue that comes from that. There's fatigue from mental exertion. And we're all familiar with that. Can lead to a headache and can make you very tired from that. Physical overexertion. There's stress-related fatigue, when our fight or flight activities are on full bore, and that just being in a stress-related situation can make you feel tired and fatigued. There is a fatigue that comes from depression, and that is a unique kind of fatigue. It's very difficult to initiate things. It feels like you're just slogging through mud. It's difficult to make decisions and move things forward. So that is definitely a type of fatigue that needs to be addressed. And there's a type of fatigue that comes from having the cold and the flu that we're all familiar with, and that usually will lift some after we've fought the virus off successfully. And then last, and the one that we're going to speak about the most, is something called lassitude, and that's MS-related fatigue. And lassitude is unique to MS. Nobody else experiences lassitude unless you have MS. And it's been described to me a number of different ways, but I've heard the term wet noodle, completely out of gas. I've absolutely hit the wall. Once I hit that, there's just nothing more I can do. It's completely overwhelming. And we now know that lassitude is part of the disease process that's going on in the brain. And your body, the body of someone who has MS is working we don't know how much harder, but let's say you're working 10 times harder to send communication and signals down the demyelinated nerve pathways. So any kind of activity that you are doing, your body is working many times harder than somebody else who doesn't have MS. And so it just takes its toll. And I think that's one of the reasons why it just comes up, and it's just you hit a wall, and there's a point where there's only rest as the option. So it can be severe and it can be debilitating. So how do we deal with all of that? So you get to juggle all those types of fatigue. So it's not just that you have lassitude. It would also be that deconditioning fatigue could raise its head, or having a cold, or stress-related, or depression-related. So what we want to do is we want to keep in mind that all of those different types of fatigue can influence you, and that it's really critically important at that point in time to be able to minimize its effect on your life. So that's where we begin, and I say we start with applying the rule of simple. The idea of that is that multiple little adjustments that you make throughout your day really matter by the end of the day. And that's something that we call pacing, and that's something we'll talk about in depth later on in the webinar. But what I recommend is that you allow yourself to drain stress and tension and things that you can't control periodically throughout the day. Because if you think about it, it's sort of like carrying around, if the stress that we accumulate throughout the day, even if it's happy stress, that we accumulate throughout the day, it's sort of like carrying around a gallon jug of milk. So you accumulate some in the morning, and then maybe again in mid-morning, and again at noon, and pretty soon you can feel like your body is all tight. It's like you're carrying around 25 pounds of extra something. That's fatiguing. So it's a good idea to just allow yourself to de-stress, and that can take a variety of forms that we'll talk about in a little bit. And this is a combination of mental and physical adjustments. This draining can be a mental exercise, it can be a physical exercise, it can be a little bit of both. And if you're familiar with yoga, that is a nice combination of both the mental and physical ability to drain your body of stress. So we start that by listening to your body. Our bodies actually have a lot to tell us, but they don't generally use English. They use aches and pains and the inability to focus or concentrate. All of those things are telling us that we might be a little bit on overload. So what I recommend in learning how to listen to your body and be able to make adjustments for your body and to take some time to manage fatigue is take about 3 to 5 minutes in time each day to practice this and to just get very quiet, not a lot of outside stimulation, and listen to what your body is saying in the moment. And you can just kind of do a mental scan from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes, and you can say, is there anything aching? Is there anything kind of tight? Are my shoulders tight? Am I tired? Is anything tingling or burning? Do I have stiffness anywhere? Or do I feel relaxed and happy? Do I feel content? Do I feel impatient or angry? So just sort of identify what it is that you're feeling, and then it's time to engage that. So you can sit down or lie down, whatever you want. You can do the standing too, and engage the body parts that are talking to you. So I'm going to just have you do a little example with me while we're sitting here behind our computers. And I want you to allow your spine to soften, both in the front of the spine, if you can picture your spine in 3D, and the back of your spine, and just allow it to soften and elongate. It should feel like, you're getting a little taller. And then you want to allow the back of your neck and the front part of your throat to soften and elongate. See if you can get more of a neck. Just allow those tissues to soften. And then you want to move down and allow your arms and your legs and your tummy to soften and stop holding tension. And I hope some of you have found that you went, oh, I didn't know I was holding tension there until, now I'm aware that I'm holding tension there. So then allow that to soften and let it go. And that's part of that draining the tension and becoming more aware of our bodies. So the next thing I have on here is create a rest station. And this is something that came from a personal experience that happened to me this summer. I broke my ankle over the summer and had to be on crutches. And I found that it was incredibly fatiguing to get around on crutches and to do your grocery shopping and to clean the house and to cook and to move around. And I had a real aha empathic moment where, I was like, wow, when you have challenges with moving around, it's really tiring. And so what I ended up doing, you're supposed to keep your foot elevated, and so I would land in a great chair in our house, and I would just be getting to relax and settle in, and the phone would ring. And so then I'd have to get up and go get it and answer the phone and bring it back. And then as soon as I finished that, then I was thirsty, or then I needed a Kleenex, so the list kind of went on. So what I ended up doing was creating a rest station. And I highly recommend them, because this is a place where you can come and just rejuvenate and restore. And we'll talk about the importance of that in a few minutes. But create a place to rest at home, and at work if you can. And you want to put all items that you might want or need in arm's reach. So that's the phone, your Kleenex, the remote, water, book, magazine, you name it. use the space initially to do some restoration. You may not want to drop into the chair or the couch or wherever you choose and start doing something right away, but use that space to relax and let your body let go of any tension. But then if you need those above items, they're right there. You don't have to get up again and go and get them or feel like you're being pushed around by the things that you need to do. And then after that, you can divide tasks. You can use it as a restorative break, and then you can work from that rest station. You can pick up your laptop or plan the week's menu or read a book or a magazine or watch TV. So that was something that I found was actually pretty helpful on a personal note. So the next thing then is to empower yourself. When you talked about kind of scanning through your body and finding out what your body was talking to you about, achy, tired, happy, content, what was going on, and you want to address your mood. You want to quickly evaluate why you're feeling the way you are at the moment. And then after you have, okay, I'm feeling this way, then you want to take action from that. So if you're tired and achy, it might be time to take a short or a medium rest break. And that can look like, anywhere from 1 minute to 15 minutes, however much time you have. And so the rest of these, if you're impatient and tired, it might mean that you need a 30-second rest break and kind of plan ahead, and then you have a way to go in the future. Or if you're angry and stiff, and those things often go together, use a relaxation plan and plan ahead for what your next steps are going to be. But what we want to do is get out of those stressing, fatiguing moods that are going to overtax us. If you find yourself that you're thirsty and hungry, be proactive and hydrate and refuel. So just empowering yourself. And this is the time to take some time to start this process. It is exactly that. It's a process. And all of us have answers or things that we have always done to combat stress or fatigue or things that are happening to us. This is a good time to take a chance to reassess your toolbox, to reassess and find out what strategies you're using that are still working for you and maybe the ones that don't anymore. This is a good time to throw out the old and useless strategies and implement some new ones for you. And an example I would give you for this would be that someone would maybe in the past, maybe before they had a diagnosis of MS, would maybe say have exercised vigorously and really had their fatigue lift for that, and that was a strategy that worked well for them. But after symptoms and being diagnosed with MS, when they would do the same overexertion in their exercise plan, they would be exhausted. And so the idea there would be to scale back on the vigorousness of the exercise. Do more of a moderate exercise. You'll get the same boost for fatigue, eliminating some of the fatigue, getting a good circulatory boost, and not have the debilitation of severe fatigue. So this is a good time to decide on a good global holistic approach to managing fatigue. And everyone who is signed in would have a different looking plan. It would be absolutely unique to you because every one of us has something different going on in our lives, different things that have shaped and formed our thoughts and experiences, different needs. We look different and act different and have different schedules. So whatever you put together should really be unique to you and work the best for you. And we'll talk about some multiple tools in the toolbox. And I just got a really great question. And I'll try to address that. I think it's Jeannie, is that right, or Jeanne? I'll definitely talk about that. So our tools, some of the tools that we can put in the toolbox is organization, planning. How do we manage our time? Exercise, temperature management. Being able to stay cool is really, really important. various coping strategies that we might have, and restoration periods, which is what we're probably going to talk about on some level the most. So all of these things add up to helping us combat fatigue. So body techniques, things like progressive muscle relaxation or yoga or a simple stretching program can go a long way. If someone has high tone or spasticity somewhere in their body, that uses a lot of energy, and you have to really fight against those muscles to mobilize yourself through space. And so being able to open those muscles up and get them to stretch and elongate can make not only moving easier, but it exerts less of a toll on your physical energy. Mental techniques such as relaxation, deep breathing, those are all very, very great tools for combating fatigue. And really utilizing organizational techniques. I can't really stress enough, and it's not actually my forte either, but I definitely try. And they've been helpful to me in various stages over the years. So using a planner, using your phone, iPhones and iPads are marvelous inventions, and they can go a long way toward helping with organization. The thing I would say about this particular piece is often we ourselves can be fairly organized, but we don't typically share the organization with family members or coworkers. And that might be a good place to add on in order to manage fatigue, because if we come home and we've had a full schedule and then you have a lot of activities or tasks that are waiting for you there, you may not feel like you can do them, or you may try to muscle down and do them, and it just doesn't happen. Same thing, so letting your family or coworkers know what your schedule is, what your organization is, when you need some help, when you need breaks, can go actually a very long way toward helping manage fatigue. And in our Can Do program, we have a whole section talking about communication and how to best communicate fatigue to family members and coworkers and friends. So ergonomics are an important part of this. Lifting and carrying techniques, how high your counters are, your distance from your body to wherever you're working and the objects that you're working on, all of those things matter. And those are the little things that add up by the end of the day. This is the same idea for durable medical equipment. Essentially, they're tools. And they are tools designed to reduce the amount of effort a person puts forward into a task. So shower seats, reachers, adapted cutlery or cooking utensils, all of those things are really designed to help alleviate the fatigue, the effort that goes into performing a task. Same thing for canes and walkers and chairs. A lot of that is about fatigue and managing that. So begin this process. Where do you begin? Kind of a lot we've talked about already, but you want to start by evaluating your strengths and your weaknesses. Where do you excel? Maybe you're a fantastic organizer and you're already doing a lot of things right. Where do you need help? Maybe you're not very, very good at delegating. Maybe that's a place that you can improve upon. So you want to think of this process as creating artwork where it comes together a piece at a time and kind of emerges over time. So I'm going to pick out an example of an amalgamated person that I would say I've known over the years. And we'll say it's a she because I'm a she. And this person's strengths are that they know how to organize well. They like to exercise. They're very social. They have a lot of interests. And they like themselves and their home to be neat and clean. They have a certain idea of what's presentable. This person's weaknesses would be that they don't really delegate very well. When they exercise very hard. They give it all they've got. They can be hard on themselves when they feel that they don't measure up to their standards or somebody else's. And this individual would find it very difficult to prioritize. Everything is important. And then they subsequently cram their schedule full because everything is a priority. So this person, we'll just talk briefly about how this person might be able to make some changes. They're already good at organizing, so they want to use those skills fully, maybe share them and communicate them. This person would benefit from adapting their exercise routine from being less vigorous to being more moderate and learning how to exercise and still get full aerobic benefit, still get benefit cardiovascularly and fatigue management-wise, and still be achieving their goals. Learning to delegate or to prioritize would behoove this person. Learning to listen to their body and pacing themselves. And learning to be flexible with themselves and their schedule. And that said, that brings us to what I call the 3 Ps, which is usually the 4 Ps, but this is a shorter format for us. So the Ps are pacing, prioritizing, and positioning. And pacing, I believe, is well, for me, other people are better at it, but it's the hardest skill to really nail down. It requires patience and time to cultivate it, to really know when you're pacing yourself in the right way. It's the most successful when you're flexible, and the prioritization is the piece that gives you some of that flexibility. It requires both mental and physical flexibility. So it requires, on some level, being able to give up something that you might have wanted to do so that you can have energy to do something else. So that kind of flexibility. It requires planning ahead on an hourly, daily, weekly, and a monthly basis. And I'll talk about why that's important in a few minutes. And it requires frequent evaluation and reevaluation to see if it feels right to you, if that's something that is working well. So the best example I have for pacing is the marathon. And I don't know if any of you have run a marathon, but we all usually want to finish what we start. And you have to have the energy to finish such a long endeavor. And so many years ago, when I was dating my husband, we decided to run a marathon. And so we planned our wedding by all the training runs, and we ran our first marathon, and we were thrilled to finish it in about 4 hours and 7 minutes. And it was a positive experience, so we decided that we wanted to do it again. But of course, and naturally, we wanted to improve upon that. We wanted to maybe not be out there running quite so long. So we went to a seminar before our second marathon about how to do just that. And the presenter said, if you're not an elite runner, which of course we weren't, then you need to walk for 1 minute of every mile till mile 18. And then after mile 18, it doesn't matter because you've used up all your body's resources, and you just are going to have to slog through. But up until then, when you walk for that 1 minute, you're going to rest the muscles that were doing all the running and pushing, and it'll give them a chance to restore. And so we thought, well, that's perfectly easy. Of course we can do that. Until we actually went to implement it. And then it was very challenging because here you are, you're in a race, and you're walking. And you have a long way to go, and you're walking. And the people that you just passed are now passing you. So that competitive edge kicks in, and you want to just pick it up and go, but we stuck with it. And at the end of the marathon, we had shaved off a good 20 to 25 minutes. I don't remember exactly, but somewhere in that neighborhood. And it was a harder course to run. And it was an aha moment for me again there because, again, this is that if you take a little bit of a break frequently throughout the day, it will rest your muscles, it will rest your body, and it will allow you to have more energy at the end of the day, maybe when you need it the most. So restoration breaks are a combination of mental and physical activities, and they allow you to de-stress. They allow you to build a little bit of energy. They allow you to build calm and to reevaluate where you are in the day. And the nice piece about that, too, is the little breaks all throughout the day tend to help people avoid the big crash into the wall. And I know a lot of people have told me that they crash about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They're going along readily enough, and it really doesn't feel like they're nearing the wall, but then wham, all of a sudden they're there. And when they do implement these restoration breaks, then they're not hitting that wall quite the same way that they used to, or sometimes they're not hitting it at all. So another piece of pacing is aiming for a consistent energy requirement daily. So again, when I sat down and counseled people one-on-one in this process, which let me take a caveat here, or a segue here, to say if you are finding that you're frustrated with getting a handle on this, if you have an opportunity to meet one-on-one with an occupational therapist, I would highly recommend it. I highly recommend that you find an occupational therapist that is familiar with lassitude or MS-related fatigue, so that they can give you some pretty meaningful advice. But being able to sit down and bounce some ideas off of someone can be very, very helpful. So coming back to the consistent energy requirement, when I've worked with people one-on-one, people will cram, like they'll come and they'll tell me that, I fill Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday up. And I do as much as I possibly can because I know by the end of the week I'm going to be wiped out and I'm not going to be able to do very much. But what that does is the body is never quite sure what you're going to need in terms of energy requirements. So those ups and downs, or they'll do a lot on Monday and then they can't do much on Tuesday. And then to make up for Tuesday, they'll do a lot on Wednesday. Subsequently, Thursday has to be a very hard down day. And so that up and down, not only is it discouraging, but it is also hard on your body. So being able to find that that kind of fairly consistent energy requirement through the day. Again, this is a patience and a time-related function. And yes, it is a learned function. I just read that question. So going for a more consistent energy requirement. These are all best performed hand-in-hand with prioritization because that allows that flexibility that I was talking about. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. It's sort of dense. So essentially what I want to do is I'm going to see if I can play with one of the tools here. Okay. So this one, the unpaced schedule side here, really essentially I'm just kind of showing that sorry, I was just reading a question. The best way, this side is going to show you that somebody's kind of up and at 'em all day long. So they're doing task after task after task after task, and you'll notice right here that between 9 to 10 is their only downtime, and that's a long way into the day. So over here, I just want to highlight that throughout the day, there are restoration breaks slipped in, and you can see that they're not terribly long. In the morning, I suggested getting up and being able to do some meditation and looking through the day and sort of planning, okay, what kind of a day do I have on tap anyway? Do I need to switch some things around? And that's part of the prepare for the day. And then a little bit of a restoration break there. And then we get everybody ready for work and school and that kind of thing. And then just another little restoration break to de-stress and drain. And then work and then lunch. And so the idea is essentially that you insert those restoration breaks. And it's really hard, it's really easy to say it and really hard to do it. It's a lot like that walking that 1 minute. You really have to force yourself because you really want to just override it. You know what, I don't have time. This person at work asked me to answer this question, and what am I doing sitting here for 5 minutes doing nothing? So that it takes some practice to be able to get into this. So I see lots of questions coming up about the 2 o'clock time frame. So hopefully this will be helpful. So here's some general rules of thumb for pacing. Aim to change your position within 30 to 45 minutes. So if you are standing, sit down. If you're sitting, stand up. If you can't stand up, then shift your position. Move your body around. You can look over one shoulder and then the other shoulder. You can, kind of rock while you're sitting. But what you want to do is just, again, it's that whole allowing the muscles that have been doing that particular job a little bit of a break, and then you can go back to that. In the vein of the mental relaxation, take a mental break for 1 minute of every hour. That's not very long, and you just want to kind of stop and let go and say, okay, I just want to refocus. I just want to kind of find myself again, and boom, that seems to help a lot with mental fatigue as well. If you need to, if you get to that 2 o'clock time frame and you're done, and you look on your list and you've got, 5 more really important things to do this day that you don't feel you can drop. One of the things we're going to talk about with prioritizing is making sure you do have low priority items on your list of to-do things for the day. And if you need to, drop 1. Drop 5 if you need to, so that you take the burden of expectation off of yourself. If you find yourself feeling anxious or stressed, it's time for a restoration break. Remember, they can be a minute, and that's it, and to be effective. Breathe deeply. I think most of us have heard about the super-duper effects of deep breathing and how good it is for us, and it is. It helps us drop out of high breathing. It drops down into the diaphragm. It opens up the whole chest area, allows the neck and the back muscles to relax, and it oxygenates your whole entire body. So again, you want to sprinkle your day with high and low priority tasks, and that's our next item of topic. And rushing is very hard on all of us. And when we rush, we are going to use many times more energy to do the same job. So just a little bit of pacing trivia just for fun for you. Rate of speed is important, like I was just talking about. Walking fast takes 1.5 times the energy as steady rhythmic walking. Walking downstairs takes 2 times as much energy, and walking upstairs takes 7 times as much energy. I will have a lot of people tell me, well, I take the stairs because it's my only form of exercise. But I bet that what it's not doing is it's not doing a lot of aerobic conditioning for you. It's not going on long enough. So it might be better to save your energy, use 1 time as much of the energy, take the elevator, and then be able to schedule in 20 minutes of aerobic exercise that will actually refresh you. So that's a thought, food for thought. Prioritization. Priority is a state of having importance or urgency. It needs to be done quickly. It needs to be delivered. It's important. What I have found when I sit down with people one-on-one, it's helpful to have a system to determine a level of priority. I'm rather fond of ABC, but you can use 1, 2, 3, or whatever system seems to jive for you. A is things of highest importance, B is medium importance, and C is low importance. They can be A, things that have to be done today, B are things that have to be done this week, and C are things that, really I'd kind of like to get that done by the end of the month. The trick to this is not filling your whole day with A's, which a lot of people do. The trick is to devote maybe 30 to 40% of your day to A's, 25 to 30 to B's, and 30 to C's. So guess which ones get to slide to another day if they need to. Yeah, the C's. And it's easy, and you don't feel as bad about moving a C priority to maybe another day in the week if you have run out of energy. So being able to do A, B, and C's within one day and within the week allows you to keep ahead of your schedule. So then you feel like things aren't pushing you. Maybe you're pushing things around on your calendar. Place your most important task during the time of greater energy. A lot of people have better energy in the morning. On rare occasions, I've had people who've had better energy in the evening. And so you have to do what's right for you. Remember, this plan is unique to you. So find the place that you feel you have the best energy. But what I recommend is taking those restoration breaks, allowing your body to rest in between those priority tasks, and not just doing them boom, 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 boom in succession, because then that fatigue sets in. Being realistic with yourself. Sometimes that's difficult for us to do. But if you look at your schedule in that morning time, like right before everybody else gets up in the house, and you're kind of using that as a meditation or a stretching time, look at your schedule and say, am I really going to be able to do this today? Do I need to fill something in, or do I need to take something out? And get reality checks with people around you, spouses and other family members, very good friends, sometimes coworkers are good about giving us reality checks. So checking in with them and saying, get some ideas from them. Priority helpers, learning to delegate. That's really a big one for if you do get to the end of the day, or you get to that 2 o'clock time hour and you need to really rest, being able to give away some tasks would really be helpful, because then they're getting done and you aren't having to do them. Dropping some tasks from the day and moving them to another day. That's why that weekly and monthly look ahead is so important. Then you have a place to put it, and it's being taken care of instead of sort of being dropped off into the wastebasket only to haunt you later. And now here's the challenger. Leave some time open and blank. Don't fill your day entirely. And I've had people laugh out loud when I say that to them. And the reason for that is that if you need to fill something in, a walk with a friend in the evening, the ability to go out spontaneously, you maybe could do that. Or you want to implement some stretching, or partake in a craft or a hobby activity that you've been really wanting to get to, or a phone conversation with a friend. I'm kind of laying heavy on the hobby and leisure parts of that, because those tend to get pushed out of our schedule. But leaving some time open and blank gives you something of a restoration break there, and you can always fill it in if you need to. And sometimes you can just fill it in with you can always tell when I'm reading a question, can't you? So filling that in with some restoration. And then, as much as possible, eliminate unnecessary tasks. One that comes to mind for me is if you have a family in your house, then having everybody bring the laundry to the laundry room and having them sort the lights and the darks can eliminate an unnecessary task for yourself. Or delegating laundry altogether. That's a good one too. If you have something where you can drop it on the floor and you can let gravity move things for you, that's always a good way to eliminate a bending and lifting task. So moving on. Moving on to positioning. And positioning is important because it's how we use our body. And we use energy in our body, and how we use our body determines how much energy we use. So we can really streamline our energy management by being careful about how we position ourselves. And I don't mean like walking like on eggshells, but just using some of the good ergonomic skills that are kind of readily, handily out there. Sitting versus standing will always use less energy. So if you can sit to do grooming like shaving or brushing your teeth or styling your hair, sitting while you take a shower can save a bundle of energy that you can then use somewhere else in the day. And it's that rule of simple. The little things add up to make a difference for you. Pushing something versus pulling it, you can use your body weight behind it instead of just your shoulder girdle. So you use less energy. Working close to wherever you're, so in the kitchen or at your computer, at your desk, having that be close versus arm's length uses less energy. And having good posture versus slouching, we pinch our diaphragm when we slouch, and it's more tiring. It's tiring to draw breath after breath. And so it's important to begin to utilize better posture. It uses less energy. So some ideas here. Organize your task spaces. This is a part of the empowerment piece of this, is if the kitchen or the bathroom, your desk, the laundry room, the linen closet, if those things aren't to your satisfaction, change them so that they are, so that things are within easy reach. You don't have to do a lot of reaching up or down. You can keep frequently used items between your hips and shoulders, or they're right there in the front where you can easily reach them and find them. A good task height for minimal energy drain is the task should be at just below or at belly button height. So whether you're either standing or seated. So if you're chopping vegetables, that's a good place. If you're computing on the computer, that's a good place to have the workspace. If you're doing fine motor tasks or needle pointing or things like that, having it at a good task space uses less energy. Use a reacher for reaching if you need one. Use a rolling cart to transport things in your house, whether that's cleaning supplies or laundry or anything like that. Okay, I'll get to that, Susan. Use gravity whenever possible. And keeping objects easily visible. I mean, how many of us have gone to the pantry and you had to dig around to find what it was that you wanted? Keeping things easily visible and not having to move things around can really save us a lot of energy. Good body mechanics involve keeping objects close to your body, avoiding twisting, pushing rather than pulling. We've all heard this one, use your leg muscles to lift. Slide objects on the counter rather than lift, and sit whenever possible. And when you add all of those things together, it should come together for a nice little energy packet of savings. I'm not saying that it will give you a boost. Sometimes people will find that they have a boost. But generally it's just that, I've implemented these things over the last couple of weeks, and I have to say that things are starting to even out, and maybe I'm not feeling quite as tired as I was, or I'm not hitting the wall hard. So that's kind of what I would expect that to look like a little bit. So positioning, listen to your body. When your body starts aching and getting very tired, that's when it's time to take that break and give yourself that break. And it can even be a small break, 30 seconds to a minute. So position changes, using progressive muscle relaxation or other forms of relaxation, getting a massage. If that's helpful, some people will utilize massage as a maintenance tool and get it once a week, to just get rid of the extra stress and tension, and then they can go forth for another week. So if that's something you need or you benefit from, do empower yourself to have that. Exercise is an awesome tool for alleviating stress points and hot spots and improving circulation and improving your energy. Stretching, again, I had mentioned spasticity or high tone. Even if you don't have that, we all tend to get tight muscles that drain us of energy. So embarking on a good stretching program. This is a good place to touch base with a physical therapist who specializes or has an understanding of what MS is like and can get you on a really good overall stretching program. And I already talked about pinching the diaphragm, so we'll move on. So in summary, tonight I talked mostly about how using multiple tools and techniques can be beneficial in managing fatigue. I didn't touch on medications. There are medications out there that can help alleviate fatigue. I don't know, there's probably one of the archived webinars we have does touch upon that in terms of one of the physicians probably discussed that. Right now I'm not thinking of any particular name brand that's coming up, but there are some that can be helpful. living the rule of simplicity, listening to your body, engaging and empowering yourself to make the changes. Yes, some medications can cause fatigue. I'll touch base on that in a moment. Engaging and empowering yourself to make changes to a workstation or communicating with your family are all really important things that can make a positive change, that can make a pretty significant difference. And then remembering that small changes add up to big energy dividends over the long haul. Before I kind of finish this summary, I do want to say, again, the pacing and the prioritizing, all those take some time to massage them into place in your schedule. And you may have some false starts. You may have some things that you implement and you're like, you know what, this just isn't working at all. That's okay. Go back and look at it and tweak it again and tweak it again. I would say give yourself a good month. If pacing is new to you or you want to implement some different pacing techniques, to really find your form, find the pace that is the best for you. And again, I'd reiterate, sometimes having a consult with a physical or an occupational therapist can go a long way in helping you fine-tune the tricky spots. So I would encourage you to make a holistic commitment to managing fatigue. We don't really have one really good tool yet. I don't know that we ever really will, but hopefully we will. And being able to look at it on a global, mental, physical, communication, kind of global holistic look. My whole body, my mind and my body work together to produce the things I do in the day. And I have to take care of all of those things to minimize fatigue. And that's where the 3 Ps can come into play. So I think that we have reached, yes, the end of the formality of the presentation. I'm going to kind of scroll back through the questions. And Mel, did you have some that you wanted to pick out? Yeah, okay.
Oh, sure. I do have a couple. One that I have is during MS fatigue, is it common to experience a temporary worsening of other symptoms, for example, sensory issues or balance, mobility?
Yes, definitely. And that can be so scary because then you're like, oh my gosh, have I done permanent damage or am I going to set myself off into a relapse? The answer to that generally is no. But it is a really big red warning flag that you are overdoing it. And chances are good that you blew past a few other signals before it got to that point. So that's where the listening to your body becomes, that's that process of kind of learning, okay, before my body is shouting at me, are there some cues that are telling me that I should maybe take a break? And that can be, your low back is starting to tighten, or your shoulders are somewhere near the vicinity of your ears, or you're feeling kind of tight in the chest and sort of anxious. Those can be cues, your body's way of talking to you and going, hey, yo, I wish you would slow down a little bit.
Sure.
Before it goes to the next level. And there's Carly sent in, she said, I crash for an hour every day about 1 to 2 p.m. Is this not a good idea? I've done it for 20 years, and it allows me to function pretty well. And I would say, good on ya. That works for you, and keep it up. That's just fine. Again, every one of us is different. Every one of us is going to take a slightly different approach. Most decidedly, you can learn from other people, and you can try something on that somebody else tries. If it works for you, that's marvelous, and keep it. It's a good tool. If it doesn't mean that it was a bad tool. It just wasn't as good for you as an individual. So, I think that my answer to that would be that's perfectly fine. Okay, so any others then?
Sure. This is when you're in public and fatigue comes on, do you have suggestions on how to manage?
Yes, that's a great question. I've had conversations with people about that before, and what I recommend is I'll give you the context of the situation of the person I was talking to. They were vacationing, and they were in Washington, D.C., and sightseeing, and they were doing a lot of walking. And my client, hit the wall. And both of them sort of panicked. It was like, oh my gosh, what do we do? And he was, her spouse was rushing around and trying to get a taxi, and they were both kind of flustered. And so we talked about that, and I said, plan ahead, plan your route, and even as you're walking, look for benches and places, walls, places that you can lean or sit down. And then also keep in mind, especially when you exercise, kind of keep an eye open on yourself to say, about when do I start feeling like, that's about enough. I'm going to be glad to be done. Is that 20 minutes? Is it 30 minutes? Is it 40 minutes? When do I want to go, boy, if I could sit down now, I really would. And pay attention to that. You want to sit before you hit that point. So if you can plan ahead, find rest breaks, a coffee house, a bench where you can sit down and just take a 5 to 10 minute rest break would be a good way to manage that. We know people who have those rolling walkers, and they'll just simply use their walker to sit down and take a little bit of a rest. But planning ahead, where can I build in kind of a little rest station there? So hopefully that answered that question.
Great, thank you. I've had a few people ask, for example, one person was saying, I was diagnosed 9 years ago with MS. I haven't had fatigue issues, and suddenly this person has started to have symptoms. Or another person has asked, how common is it for fatigue to change so drastically? Can you kind of explain just why it can be so drastic?
Yeah, kind of in a global sense. It may be different in its specificity for various reasons. Fatigue, again, I think I would probably refer us back to the different types of fatigue that we can experience. And you might want to rule out whether something else, another type of fatigue, is in kind of sitting down on the top of the lassitude and making fatigue overall worse. It might be good to explore whether there's some depression in the picture. It might be good to explore whether there's some deconditioning as a part of the picture, how much stress is in your life. Those are the things, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. That's what I would address first if I were sitting down with that person one-on-one. And then we could get into more of the specifics of, okay, so we've kind of cleaned house about the other types of fatigue. What else is it? Have you started a new job, started a new relationship, started something new? Could that be draining you of energy? So we would really be a step-by-step kind of thinking it through process of elimination task.
Great, thank you. And I know you touched on this briefly. Someone had asked, does lassitude fatigue include motor fatigue?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, just wanted to get.
So you can. I've had people say that lassitude fatigue feels like you're moving underwater. You just, quite simply, you cannot move quickly, even if you wanted to. So yes, it absolutely can. People will report to me that they have incoordination problems with their hands by the end of the day when they didn't at the beginning of the day. So yes, absolutely.
I think we have time for just one or two more. One person is asking, where would be the best places to find out about occupational therapists? And
probably your local MS chapter or the National MS Society should have some lists of OTs in your area who specialize in that. That said, if you know of a support group in your area or near your area, going and asking other people what kind of an experience they've had with an OT, or if they know of one, can be a good way to find one.
Great. You know what? I think we're coming up on the hour here, so that's all the time that we have for questions. Thank you, everyone who submitted questions for this, and this was a great presentation. We appreciate you, Juliann, and again to everyone who joined us this evening. The next Live Fully, Live Well webinar will be on November 20th. at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The topic is mobility with Mandy Rohrig, who's a physical therapist and CanDo MS program consultant. And you can register for this webinar on CanDo MS's website, mscando.org. And I'd like to share a special incentive for those of you who continue to join us live for the webinars. We're offering a prize for one lucky winner who joins us live for 3 of our 5 webinars between now and December. And this includes tonight's webinar on fatigue. The prize is a copy of our new book, The CanDo Multiple Sclerosis Guide to Lifestyle Empowerment. And this book was co-authored by several CanDo MS programs consultants, and it was edited by Pat Kennedy. Pat is a registered nurse and nurse practitioner who is our nurse educator and a longtime programs consultant on our CanDo MS staff, and just a wonderful lady for us. So please join CanDo MS for a monthly webinar series or for the special Live Fully Live Well webinars. We'll pick one individual at random, and the book winner will be announced and contacted on Monday, December 17th by email or by a phone call. So good luck to everyone who joins us for some webinars here in our last quarter of the year. And if you'd like to see reviews or purchase a copy of the book online, visit our website, again, mscando.org, and more info on the book is listed under the Programs tab. So join us live from the convenience of your home or office at no charge to you. For those participating live tonight, once the presentation is over, you will see a survey that will appear on your computer screen. And if you could please take a moment to complete the survey and help us continue to improve our webinars, we really appreciate feedback and input from everyone. And you will also receive a copy of tonight's webinar slides by email. You'll receive those tomorrow morning. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.